Starting again. Hi, I'm George Alexander, and I'm going to talk to you uh, about energy terms and ways to think about how the electrical power flows. You've probably heard a lot of these terms before, watts, kilowatts, megawatts, gigawatts, and terawatts, but and each of those is 1,000 times more than the last, but you may not have an intuitive sense of what they mean. So that's what I would like to try to provide for you with this presentation. So let's start with watts. 1 watt is about the amount of electricity that an LED nightlight requires to run, a very small amount. 1,000 times more than that is a kilowatt, which is about the amount required by a 1,000-watt microwave when it's running. And 1,000 times more than that is a megawatt, which is about the amount that a 400-person retirement community requires at any given moment. And uh, beyond that, 1 gigawatt is the amount that is put out by a sizable generating plant. That's enough for a modest-sized city to run. And 1,000 times that is a terawatt. That's the amount required by a large country such as China um, during its peak power usage, which occurs during the winter for China. So that gives you a sense of the relative sizes of those different measures of electrical usage. For most of us, kilowatts is how we think about what our devices need, sometimes just watts, and maybe megawatts, which is about what one of our community needs. And the sizes that are bigger than that we don't encounter so often. So kilowatts and the related measures that I've just described tell us the rate of electrical use. They tell you the amount of electricity being used at a moment, the rate of flow, but they don't tell us the cumulative amount of electricity over a period of time. So they answer the question, how quickly am I using electricity, but not how much electricity did I use in the last hour or the past month. For those questions, you need kilowatt hours. So kilowatt hours and the related measures um, have to do with how much electricity you use during a period of time. For example, if you ran your 1 kilowatt microwave continuously for an hour, you'd use 1 kilowatt hour of electricity. Of course, you wouldn't do that with a microwave, but that's 1 kilowatt hour, which is typical for how electrical power is billed. Annual consumption for larger entities like cities, states, and nations may be stated in megawatt hours or gigawatt hours, but for most of us folks, kilowatt hours is the amount of historical use that we recognize. To summarize then, if you're thinking about moment-to-moment electricity demand or demand at the moment of peak need, you need to think in terms of kilowatts. But if you're thinking about past usage, how much electricity was used during a given period, you need to think in terms of kilowatt hours. So here again, the state of flow, watts is like a nightlight worth, kilowatts is a microwave worth, megawatts is a retirement community's worth, gigawatts is a power plant, and terawatts is a large country. And the abbreviations for the corresponding hourly use in the past are watt hours, kilowatt hours, megawatt hours, and gigawatt hours, and terawatt hours. So you probably also hear from time to time about volts and amps, but for our purposes, thinking about sustainability and the amount of power used in various contexts, you don't really need those. Kilowatts and kilowatt hours are what you need. Now, if you're dealing with wiring and fuses and transformers and things like that, then you'll need volts and amps. But Otherwise, you can leave those to the electricians. Those terms may be needed when you're talking about specific products like heat pumps and electric vehicles, but not when you're talking about overall sustainability issues. So let's take a couple of practical examples. Um, Crosslands has over 100 solar panels on its roofs. What does that mean for its electricity demand? Is it a lot or a little? Well, a single solar panel provides about 350 watts. So 100 of them provide about 35 kilowatts. The Crosslands campus uses about 1,000 kilowatts, which is a megawatt, at any given moment on average. So what does that mean? 35 kilowatts versus 1,000 kilowatts. Those panels provide about 1/3% of Crossland's needs, and that's at midday under full sun. Obviously, that's just a drop in the bucket. Even equipping all the unshaded roofs on the Crosslands campus won't come close to satisfying its electrical demand unless the efficiency of the buildings is massively upgraded. Most likely they'll need a large amount of ground-mounted solar in addition. And beyond that, if you're talking about seriously supporting the campus 24 hours, you'd obviously need a good bit of battery backup as well. Another question, how big a backup generator does the Longwood campus need? Well, our campus uses about 1 megawatt on average, so a 1 megawatt generator would generally do the job. But meeting the average need is not enough. An outage could easily come at a time when electricity demand is at its peak. And for Longwood, uh, that peak occurs on winter mornings um, when our electrical heating kicks in, which is what we have in our independent living, and it's around 2 megawatts. So to accommodate that need, you'd need a generator that generates at least 2 megawatts. And given that electricity demand is likely to be growing in future years, you probably would want a bigger one than that. So that's it, basically. Thanks for listening. As you think about these terms, think about that sequence of a nightlight, a microwave, a retirement campus, a generating plant, and a large country. Thanks a lot.